Hey, beautiful people. Today, we're going to talk about some uncomfortable topics. You've heard it your whole life, don't be selfish. Guess what? I'm here to tell you the exact opposite. It's time to change the way we think. Ever wonder why you're so tired all the time? Always putting everyone else first. What if I told you that being selfish is the secret to a happier, healthier, more successful life? Let me get personal for a second. I used to be the kind of person who always said yes to everything. You know, the one who was always there for everyone, dropping everything to help out. It got to the point where I was completely exhausted. I wasn't just exhausted, I felt lost. My days were filled with everyone else's priorities. I was nowhere on my own to a happier, healthier, more successful life. Let me get personal for a second. I used to be that person. You know, the one who was always there for everyone, dropping everything to help out. It got to the point where I was completely burnt out. I wasn't just exhausted, I felt lost. My days were filled with everyone else's priorities. I was nowhere on my own to do my own thing. Then one day, I hit a wall. Literally. I was so tired that I walked straight into a door. And that's when I realized I needed to be selfish. In today's video, I'm going to give you unapologetically real reasons why you should be selfish. 2. Whether you're a people pleaser like I was or someone who just never puts themselves first. This is for you. Buckle up. This is going to get honest, controversial, maybe even life-changing. Ready? Let's go. 1. Self-centeredness teaches you to prioritize. Okay. Let's get into this. This will cause some arguments. Self-centeredness is probably the best thing you can do for your priorities. Let's be real. It's not something anyone wants to admit out loud. The truth is, putting yourself first will teach you what actually matters in your life. Sounds controversial. Right. That's because it challenges everything we've been taught. Think about it. From a young age, you're taught to be selfless. Share your toys. Think about others. Don't be selfish. Sound familiar? No one ever tells you what happens when you always put others first. I'll tell you what happens. You become lost in a sea of other people's priorities. Suddenly your life looks like a checklist of everyone else's needs. Trust me, I lived it. Here's a personal story for you. A few years ago, I was the ultimate people pleaser. I said yes to everything. Helping out with I was working hard. Always available for my family. Taking on extra projects. I thought I was doing the right thing. Here's the thing, I never said yes to myself. I didn't think about what I wanted because I was busy taking care of everyone else. I didn't know what my priorities were because I was overwhelmed by everyone else. Then, one day, it hit me. I was sitting at my desk late at night, finishing another project that wasn't even mine. I thought, what am I doing? I was exhausted, burned out, a little resentful. That's when I realized I didn't know what was important to me anymore because I used to spend all my time helping others. Then I decided to start thinking about myself. This is where things get controversial. When you start thinking about yourself, people around you aren't always going to be happy. Why? Because they're used to you always helping them. The minute you start drawing lines, people will start complaining. You're selfish. You're right. Here's the thing, being selfish teaches you to filter out what's important and what's just noise. And here's the hard truth, a lot of what we get sucked into every day is just noise. I remember the first time I said no after deciding to be more selfish. My friend asked me to help her plan a big event. Alas, it was a short request. In the past, I would have said yes without hesitation. This time I was tired and had other plans. I declined. Her reaction wasn't positive. I received the comment, "You're being really selfish." And for a moment, I felt guilty. But then I thought, wait. Why should I feel bad for protecting my own time and energy? The truth is, no one wants to talk about, you have to be selfish to understand what really matters to you. It's like when you're on an airplane and they tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. You can't be everything for everyone if you're running on empty. By being selfish, I learned to ask myself what matters to me, what I want to focus on. That's when I started setting boundaries and saying no to things that didn't align with my goals or well-being. That I'm not a heartless robot who never helps others. I have learned the importance of setting priorities. I'm not sacrificing my own well-being for others' well-being. That I've learned that it's important to make sure everyone else is happy. I'm happier, more focused, more in tune with what matters to me. Let's be honest, if you don't prioritize yourself, you'll lose yourself. You'll wake up one day and realize you spent years chasing other people's dreams, solving their problems, fulfilling their needs, all while yours were left collecting dust. The brutal truth is that no one is going to make you a priority until you do it first. Now, let's talk about the deep part, when you start being selfish. Really unapologetically selfish. You're doing something powerful. You're telling yourself that you deserve to be a priority. That your time, energy, goals are just as important as anyone else's. And the amazing thing is that once you start living like that, your whole life changes. You'll notice that people begin to respect your boundaries more. You'll have more time for the things that make you happy. For me, once I started being selfish, I began focusing on my own passions. I had ignored this for a long time. Then I started creating again, working on projects that mattered to me. I found more joy and fulfillment this way than I ever had when I was always trying to meet other people's expectations. In the end, being selfish isn't about neglecting others. It's about including yourself in your own life's priorities. It's about knowing that you deserve the same care, attention, time you give to everyone else. Understand that your life starts to focus on what matters to you. So, go ahead and be selfish and see how things change. 2. It helps you avoid burnout. Alright. Let's talk about burnout. You know that feeling when you've said yes to too many things. You're exhausted. You can't remember the last time you did something just for yourself. Yeah. That's burnout. Here's where being selfish comes in. Being selfish is the best way to prevent burnout. Tool. Yeah. I said it, if you're not being selfish, you're probably heading straight for burnout. I know it sounds controversial to say that being selfish is the way to avoid burnout. We're told that being selfless is a virtue. Society glorifies the hustle, the grind, the ability to push through exhaustion like it's some badge of honor. Guess what? There's nothing noble about running yourself into the ground. And there's definitely nothing heroic about sacrificing your well if you're always taking care of other people's needs. You're at risk of burning out. This isn't because you have a bad personality. It's because you don't set boundaries. Here's the truth, if you're always taking care of everyone, You're not taking care of yourself. Think about the times you felt completely exhausted. Was it because you were too selfish? No. It was because you were trying to do everything for everyone. Were you working too much? Were you going to every event? Social event, helping others and not realizing that you're tired? Let me share something personal. I was very tired. There was a time when I thought I could do everything: work, relationships, side projects, favors for friends, more. I was doing it all. Let me tell you. I wore that exhaustion like a crown. I thought I was doing great. Deep down, I was miserable. I was so tired that even the things I once enjoyed, like creative projects, felt like chores. I had nothing left to give myself. Here's the surprising part: no one ever told me to stop, because people don't mind when you're tired and can't give as much. They'll keep accepting what you're giving until you have nothing left. I'll never forget the moment I realized I was about to burn out. I had agreed to take on a huge project. I was working on a project at work, even though I was already busy with other responsibilities. I thought I could handle it. I'm tough. Then, after weeks of staying late, skipping meals, barely sleeping, I hit a wall, literally. I walked into a wall because I was so exhausted that my brain just stopped working for a second. That's when it hit me: I was burning out. It was my fault. I had been saying yes to everything except my own well-being. Here's the important part: being selfish isn't just about protecting your time. It's also about protecting your energy and your mental health. When you're always giving and giving and giving, you'll eventually run out of energy. Let me explain. Burnout doesn't happen all at once. It's like a slow leak in your soul. You might not notice it at first. Maybe you feel a little more tired or less excited. You keep pushing. Then one day, you wake up and feel like there's nothing left inside you. That's burnout. In my opinion, being selfish is self-preservation, means understanding that you have a limited amount of energy. If you don't start protecting it, no one else will. When you start putting yourself first, you'll be able to recognize when you're overextending yourself. You'll learn to say no to that extra project. No to that friend who always needs a favor. No to the endless stream of obligations that drain you. Here's the hard truth: if you don't start saying no, you're going to collapse. It's funny, isn't it? Society rewards hard work, going above and beyond, always being the one to pick up the slack. But no one's handing out awards for taking care of yourself. I used to think that taking time for myself was selfish. I thought, how dare I do something just because I want to? But here's the revelation: being selfish is how you protect your energy. Avoid burnout. Keep yourself from crashing. It's the ultimate act of self-care. Let me give you an example from my life. After that incident with the wall, I still can't believe I'm admitting that on camera. I realized I needed to make a change. I started setting boundaries and saying no to things that didn't serve me. I was surprised that the world didn't end. Sure, some people were annoyed when I couldn't jump in to help them immediately. But my health, peace of mind, happiness improved a lot. I stopped feeling like a zombie. I had energy again. I could enjoy the things I loved, pursue my passions, be a better friend, partner, colleague, because I wasn't running on empty. Here's the controversial part: being selfish is not just okay. It's vital. If you're always giving and never taking, burnout is. If you don't take time for yourself, you're going to run out of energy. Make time for yourself. Guard your energy like it's gold because it is. Burnout is not something you recover from overnight. Trust me. You don't want to experience burnout. Once you hit that wall, it takes time to rebuild. The message is this: if you don't take time for yourself, you're going to run out of energy. If you don't start being selfish now, you're setting yourself up for burnout later. And no one is going to applaud you for running yourself into the ground. So give yourself permission to be selfish. Take care of you first. Only when you're at your best can you truly be there for others and avoid that dreaded burnout in the process. You realize that not everyone deserves your time. Let's get real for a second. Not everyone deserves your time. I know that sounds harsh. It's the truth. In fact, if you don't take care of yourself, people will waste your time. And here's the most controversial part of all: some of those people might be your closest friends, your family, even your You need to understand that not everyone deserves your time. Let's be real for a second. Not everyone deserves your time. I know that sounds harsh. It's true. If you don't limit the people you give your time to, people will waste it for you. Here's the most controversial part of all. Some of those people might be your closest friends, your family, even your coworkers. They might have good intentions. The reality is not everyone deserves unlimited access to your time, energy, attention. Let me paint you a picture. You're juggling a million things: work, personal goals, maybe a relationship. On top of all that, your phone lights up with a new text. Hey, can we talk? I need advice, says your friend. Now you care about them. You want to help. Of course you say yes. Before you know it, 2 hours have gone by and you've accomplished nothing on your own. You're emotionally drained. You didn't solve their problem. That's because people will gladly take your time if you keep offering it. That's exactly why you need to be selfish. Here's a personal experience to illustrate this point. A couple of years ago, I had this friend. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah was lovely. Don't get me wrong. She always needed something from me: advice, emotional support, help with projects, you name it. I was her go. You need to understand that not everyone is worth your time. Let's be real for a second. Not everyone is worth your time. I know that sounds harsh. It's true. In fact, if you don't use your time wisely, people will waste it for you. Here's the most controversial part of all. Some of those people might be your closest friends, your family, even your co-workers. At first, I didn't mind because, hey, we're friends, right? Over time, I started realizing that these interactions were one-sided. Time is valuable. Once you give it away, it's gone. Why do we treat it like that? Not everyone deserves your time. I know that sounds harsh. It's true. If you don't use your time selfishly, people will waste it for you. Some of those people might be your closest friends, family, even your co-workers. She'd vent about her problems for hours. When I needed support, she wasn't there. I gave her my time. She didn't give me hers. It wasn't just her. I noticed the same pattern with other people in my life. One day, after another long conversation where I ended up feeling drained, while Sarah seemed relieved, I realized that not everyone deserves my time. Harsh. Maybe. True. Being selfish taught me that my time is precious. Just because someone asks for it doesn't mean they're entitled to it. You need to be selective with who gets a slice of your time. Your time pie because not everyone is worthy of it, and trust me, not everyone will appreciate it the way you deserve. This is where the deep message comes in. Time is the most valuable resource you have. It's the one thing you can't get back once you give it away. So why do we treat it like it's endless? Being selfish with your time is one of the smartest and most empowering things you can do. It's about recognizing that your time is a limited resource. Not everyone should get to spend it. The honest truth is that many people will use your time without even realizing it. They'll ask for you might be spending an afternoon or even a whole day talking to someone. Then find out that you've spent hours talking about your problems with them. While it's great to be there for people, it's important to ask yourself if they are giving back what you're putting in. You need to think about how you spend your time. Here's the hard truth: being selfish with your time doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone who values yourself. People might not like it when you start saying no or setting boundaries. Guess what? You need to understand that not everyone is as deserving of your time as you might think. To be clear, not everyone deserves your time. I know this might sound harsh. It's true. If you don't set boundaries for your time, people will waste it. Here's the most controversial part. Some of those people might be your closest friends, your family, even your colleagues. Their problem, not yours. When I started to be more available, when I started saying no more, I'm focusing on my own thing at the moment, you'd be amazed at the reactions. Some people got mad, while others just drifted away. What I realized is this: the people who genuinely care about you will respect your time and boundaries. The ones who don't, well, they never really cared about you in the first place. Let me tell you another story. After I started being selfish with my time, something magical happened. I suddenly had time for the things that mattered to me. I started working on my own goals, hobbies, personal growth. Here's the surprising part: I was happier because I wasn't spending my time with people who only called when they needed something. Instead, I was doing things and spending time with people that made me happy. That's the beauty of being selfish. You get to choose where your time goes. Here's the deeper message: the people who deserve your time are the people who respect your time are the ones who deserve it. When you start being more selective, you'll notice that the quality of your relationships improves. You won't have as many shallow, draining interactions. Instead, you'll have deeper connections with people who truly value you. And guess what? You'll value yourself more. 2. Being selfish with your time isn't just about protecting your calendar. It's about protecting your energy and yourself. If you start being more selective about who you spend your time with, you'll find that the quality of your relationships improves. You won't have as many superficial, draining interactions. Instead, you'll have deeper connections with people who truly value you. You'll also start to value yourself more. Being selfish with your time isn't just about protecting your schedule. It's about protecting your energy and your self-worth. Here's the reality: you can't be available to everyone and still be available to yourself. When you stop giving your time away, you start to see who's really there for you and who's just taking advantage of your generosity. Some people will call you selfish. That's because they're used to benefiting from your lack of boundaries. Here's the deal: you can't be available to everyone and still be available to yourself. When you stop giving your time away, you start to see who's really there for you and who's just taking advantage of your generosity. Some people will call you selfish. That's because they're used to benefiting from your lack of boundaries. When you set limits, they'll have to look elsewhere for someone to take advantage of. And that's not your problem anymore. So, the key point: be selfish with your time because not everyone deserves it. It's okay to say no. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to prioritize yourself. At the end of the day, your time is your most valuable resource. Make sure it's spent on people and things that genuinely matter to you. People respect boundaries. When you set them, people respect them. Let's talk about a topic that people disagree on: boundaries. Yes, I said it. Setting boundaries is not just something that life coaches talk about. It's an important part of living a balanced life. Guess what? People actually respect boundaries when you set them. Shocking. I know. Here's the kicker. If you don't set them, you're basically giving everyone around you permission to treat you however they want. Let's be honest. That's not a good situation. Disaster. Here's where it gets controversial. You have to be the one to set boundaries. No one else is going to do it for you. In fact, people might not even realize you need boundaries until you set them. We've been taught to think that being accommodating and agreeable is the way to go. But let me tell you, being too easy to please will only get you walked all over. I learned this the hard way. Let me share a personal experience. A few years back, I was working at a job where my boss had a habit of dropping last I had a lot of short projects to complete. I thought that I could finish them all by yesterday. At first, I thought that this was normal. I didn't want to make a problem. I said yes to everything. Over time, I found myself with too much work. I was staying late at work, missing out on my personal life, feeling completely tired. You know what? My boss didn't know I was struggling because I didn't say anything. I was waiting for someone to understand. It wasn't until one particularly stressful week, when I worked through the weekend to meet a very difficult deadline, that I lost my patience. I went to my boss's office and said, "I need to set some boundaries." It felt like I was speaking. I was learning a foreign language. Guess what happened? My boss was shocked. Not in a bad way. She didn't even realize the impact of her requests. The most surprising part was that after I set those boundaries, not only did she respect them, she also became more mindful of how she assigned projects in the future. This leads to the big message: when you set boundaries, people will start to respect you more. It's like flipping a switch. Suddenly, they see you as someone who values their time and energy. When I started enforcing my boundaries, I gained not only my boss's respect, also my colleagues' respect. They started coming to me for advice on how to set their own boundaries. It was eye-opening. People had been waiting for someone to show them that it's okay to take care of themselves. Now, let's be honest. Setting boundaries isn't always easy. People may push back. They might not like the new assertive you. But here's the thing, that's not your problem. I remember one of my friends was upset when I told her I couldn't always drop everything to help her. She said I was being selfish. The truth was I was finally starting to think about my own needs. That made some people uncomfortable. That's okay. Uncomfortable feelings are part of growing. Boundaries are important because they can spread. When you set boundaries, you encourage others to do the same. It's like creating a ripple effect. One of my colleagues saw how I handled my workload and decided to start saying no to extra meetings that weren't necessary. Soon enough, others followed suit. We created a culture of respect for one another's time and energy. Who knew that by just standing my ground, I could positively impact the work environment? Now, here's the controversial part: you have to be consistent. Setting a boundary is one thing, Enforcing it consistently is what truly earns respect. If you let others cross your boundaries because you feel guilty or want to please them, you're sending the message that your boundaries don't matter. I learned this the hard way. After I set boundaries at work, I slipped back into old habits and said yes to things I should have turned down. Each time, it felt like I was losing respect. Every time I reset the boundaries and stood firm, I regained that respect. So, here's the key point: setting boundaries is a form of self. If you respect yourself, others will respect you too. When you clearly communicate your limits, you teach people how to treat you. You're not only taking care of your own needs, you're also creating a more respectful environment for everyone around you. It's a win-win, it's a win-win. Next time you feel guilty about setting boundaries, remember this: you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for everyone around you. You're setting an example of how to create healthier, more balanced relationships. Go ahead. Set those boundaries. Watch as people start respecting you in ways you never thought possible. You deserve it. Remember, you're not responsible for everyone. You don't have to be responsible for everyone else's happiness. Can we just acknowledge how freeing that is? You might think, what about my friends? Family? Partner? Shouldn't I care about their happiness? Sure. Caring is part of being human. Let's be clear, taking on someone else's happiness is like, it's exhausting and unnecessary to try to make everyone around you happy. Here's the truth: you are not a walking happiness machine. You don't have to be everyone's emotional support system. I know this sounds blunt. Let's be honest. If you try to make everyone around you happy, you might lose sight of your own happiness. The more you try, the more exhausted you'll feel. The more you try to make everyone else happy, the more likely you are to become resentful and unhappy yourself. It's a vicious cycle. Let me share a personal experience to drive this home. A few years back, I had this friend. Let's call her Lisa. Lisa was going through a rough patch. She was unhappy in her job. Her relationship was rocky. She leaned on me heavily for support. Don't get me wrong, I wanted to help her. Over time I found it's exhausting and completely unnecessary to try to make everyone around you happy. You are not a walking happiness machine. You are not obligated to be everyone's emotional support system. I know this sounds blunt. Let's be honest. If you try to make everyone around you happy, you will lose sight of your own happiness. The more you try, the more tired you will feel. I was spending hours listening to her problems, giving advice, trying to cheer her up. But no matter what I said or did, she never seemed satisfied. It felt like I was trying to fill a bottomless pit with happiness. It was exhausting. One day, after another long conversation where Lisa kept lamenting her situation, I snapped. I said, "Lisa, I can't be your happiness factory. I have my own stuff too. It's exhausting and completely unnecessary. Here's the truth. You are not a walking happiness machine. You are not obligated to make everyone feel good or to be their emotional support system at all times." I know this sounds blunt. Let's be honest. Trying to make everyone around you happy is a sure way to lose sight of your own happiness, and guess what? The more you try to deal with it, the harder it gets. To my surprise, she didn't get upset. In fact, she paused and said, "You're right. I guess I've been expecting too much from you." And just like that, the dynamic shifted. I realized that by setting that boundary, I was not only taking care of myself, I was also giving Lisa the opportunity to find her own happiness without relying on me. Here's the deep message: you can care about someone without taking on their emotional burdens. when you recognize that you're not responsible for someone else's happiness. You empower both yourself and them. It's about teaching people to find their own paths to joy. This doesn't mean you should stop being supportive or compassionate. Of course. Be there for your loved ones. Know that you can support them without sacrificing your own happiness. Own happiness, this is where it gets controversial again. Some people might get mad when you stop being their emotional crutch. They might call you selfish or uncaring, but honestly, that's their issue. Not yours. When I set that boundary with Lisa, I realized that her anger was rooted in her own struggles. Not my refusal to be her happiness provider. This is a hard lesson to learn. Sometimes when you prioritize your well, it's exhausting and completely unnecessary to try to make everyone around you happy. You are not a walking happiness machine. You are not obligated to make everyone feel good or to be their emotional support system at all times. I know this sounds blunt. Let's be honest. Trying to make everyone around you happy is a sure way to lose sight of your own happiness. The more you try, the more it can feel like you're letting others down. The truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. Let me hit you with another personal story. I was once in a relationship where I felt like my partner's happiness was my responsibility. I wanted to be the perfect partner and make them feel fulfilled. Over time, I realized that their happiness was a weight I couldn't carry. It wasn't my job to keep them entertained or to always provide emotional support. It's like a fog lifted when I finally realized that I can't make everyone around me happy. I started focusing on my own interests, hobbies, passions. Guess what? I became happier. So did my partner. Ironically, the more I prioritized my own happiness, the more our relationship flourished. You cannot be the source of someone else's happiness. Take that weight off your shoulders and free yourself to pursue your own joy. Happiness is not a shared commodity. It's something each person must learn to do for themselves. Here's the hard truth: if someone depends on you for their happiness, it's time to face reality. They need to learn to find joy on their own. You can help guide them. You can't do the work for them. It's not fair to you or them if you continue to carry that burden. The most important thing to understand is that making your own happiness a priority is not selfish. It's essential. When you're happy, you're better at helping others. You become a better friend, partner, family member when you take care of your own feelings first. Stop trying to make everyone else happy. It's time to stop trying to make everyone else happy and start focusing on your own happiness. In short, you don't have to make everyone else happy. You can care. You can support others. Everyone must find their own path to joy. So, stop worrying and be happy. You will positively impact everyone around you. It's time to prioritize yourself. Here are some reasons why being a little selfish is not just okay. Absolutely necessary. If this video made you laugh or think twice about being selfish, then it was worth it. If this video made you think about your life, then I did my job. Remember, being selfish isn't about hurting others. It's about being the best version of yourself so you can live a more balanced, fulfilled life. That I know this topic can be controversial and maybe it made you uncomfortable. That's where growth happens. So, you owe it to yourself to prioritize your happiness, your time, your well-being. Life is short. Don't live according to other people's standards. Your dreams, goals, mental health are important. When you take care of yourself, everything else will fall into place. If you've ever been called selfish for choosing yourself, don't take it personally. It's a sign that you're in control of your life. If you enjoyed this video, even if it made you think deeply about your own self, if someone says you're selfish for caring about yourself, Consider it a compliment. It means you're in control of your life. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe for more real, raw conversations like this one. Also, leave a comment below. Tell me about a boundary you're setting this week or how you plan to reclaim your time. Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Remember, being selfish isn't a bad thing. It's a superpower.